Hello everyone, I thought it would be fun to attempt and rank the top 10 most intense roller coasters I've been on so far. I'll admit, I haven't even reached 100 credits yet, so this list probably has some rides on it that aren't too crazy in the grand scheme of things, but they're definitely nothing to scoff at either. I tried to mix up my list and include coasters that have some heavy positive G's and cause me to gray out, while also covering some that are intense just because they're either rough or have long, fast-paced layouts. The definition of intense seems to vary from person to person. It even varies a bit for me at times, hence why most rides on this list appear for a different reason entirely. Let's get into it. At number 10 is Maxx Force at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. I'll admit this ride is very short, so it's really only the launch that takes me by surprise. I've gotten a little more used to it now, but man, that first time was pretty insane. Maxx Force is a 2019 S&S compressed air launch coaster with a ride time of just over 20 seconds, but the main selling point of the ride is the launch, which takes you from 0 to 78 miles per hour in just 1.8 seconds. It's hard to put into words how intense that launch feels. I've described it in the past as dreamlike. It's over in the blink of an eye, literally, and feels almost like your body is left at the station, while your soul flies forward. While the rest of the ride isn't too crazy, that launch is enough to earn Maxx Force a top 10 spot. At number 9 is a ride from the exact same park, Goliath. Goliath is a 2014 RMC topper track coaster with a height of 165 feet, a drop of 180 feet, and 2 inversions. It's easily one of my favorites at Great America, but I can admit this ride is also pretty short. The reason why it earns a top 10 spot is because although the ride could stand to be longer, the ride's pacing is incredible. I'd been on this ride so many times at one point that I didn't think it was all that intense anymore, but I rode it on a hot day recently and was pleasantly surprised to see it runs far faster than I originally thought. The drop is nearly vertical, and you completely lift out of your seat. The positives in the following valley are pretty gnarly sometimes, and many elements are aggressive, especially the small airtime hill before the dive loop. Adding to that, this ride is a little bit rougher than other RMCs, so it feels more out of control. I've been on crazier RMCs, but I think the intensity of this one is a bit overlooked. In 8th place is The Boss at Six Flags St. Louis in Eureka, Missouri. This park recently came under new ownership and will no longer be part of the original chain, so I'm a little intrigued to see what the future holds for this ride. The Boss is a CCI wooden roller coaster that debuted in April of 2000 and has a height of 122 feet, a drop of 150 feet, and a top speed of 66 miles per hour. There are 2 main reasons this ride appears on my list. 1, it has a very long layout full of surprising and jarring transitions. It's not a smooth ride, I'll admit that, but that definitely adds to the intensity. 2, new Titan track was recently added to the section after the first drop and turnaround, and the train barrels so quickly and smoothly through this section that it almost feels like a large-scale B&M. The first time I rode The Boss, I remember feeling like this section is similar to a Giga coaster in the front row. It was so fast that I felt some serious positive G's. In fact, I think I got close to graying out a little bit. I also don't think this ride is as rough as some claim. It's certainly janky and uncomfortable, but in a weird way, I find it to be pretty fun. The first half is definitely more intense than the second, but this ride's combination of jank and speed are enough to earn it a spot above Goliath in my list. At number 7 is a coaster which debuted the same year as The Boss, that being the Legend at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. The Legend was also built by the same manufacturer, CCI, and features a similar layout full of jarring and abrupt transition. It has a height of 99 feet, a drop of 113 feet, and an impressively long layout of 4,042 feet. Seriously, this coaster feels like it never ends. While The Boss definitely has a more intense first half, the Legend stays intense from start to finish, while The Boss somewhat slows down for the second half. I have a love-hate relationship with the Legend, because I'm not as big on laterals, and this ride definitely has a lot of side-to-side slamming. It's not the most comfortable experience, but it's also far smoother than all the woodies at Six Flags St. Louis. There's a super long helix in the middle of the ride that pretty much glues you to the side of the seat, or whoever you're next to, for a good 10 to 15 seconds. There are some pretty good moments of airtime on this ride as well. The Legend has the right combination of jankiness, strong laterals, and length to give it a top 10 spot on my list. Coming in at number 6 is Lightning Rod at Dollywood, which is located in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It was built by RMC and debuted in 2016. The ride has a drop height of 165 feet and a top speed of 73 miles per hour. It used to feature a launched lift hill, as I'm sure many viewers will remember. Unfortunately, I never got the chance to ride it with the launch, but I think that's a testament to just how great the rest of the ride's layout is. The wave turn after the drop is elongated in such a way that I usually start graying out a little bit towards the bottom. All the strong sideways ejector moments catch me by surprise every time. The quad down has some of the best airtime I've ever felt on a ride. It almost feels unnatural how strong it is when the ride is running at its best. The first time I rode this ride, I remember being taken aback by how strong the airtime was throughout the entire layout. It basically felt like I was never in my seat at all. Lightning Rod is smooth in my opinion, but it does have a little bit more rumble than other RMCs I've been on, which adds to its intensity. Although it was probably more intense when it originally debuted with the launch, it still kicks ass today and deserves a spot here. At number 5 is Screamin' Eagle at Six Flags St. Louis in Eureka, Missouri. This placement probably seems insane, but let me clarify why it's here before I list some stats. This ride is easily the most painful ride I've ever been on. Not even my worst rides on the Beast at Kings Island come anywhere close. That ride is glass smooth by comparison. The ride was built in 1976 by Philadelphia Toboggan Coasters and stands 110 feet tall with a 92-foot drop. It has quite a long layout, which is another reason why it wound up here at number 5. In theory, it shouldn't be a very intense ride. Sure, the height and speed are pretty impressive for a coaster its age, but the layout consists of several moderate airtime hills and doesn't really do anything special. The roughness and length are what combine to make this coaster especially intense. The rattling I experienced throughout the ride's entire layout was so severe that I genuinely worried about my health. It felt like my bones were disintegrating, and that's putting it lightly. It took me a good 2 to 3 hours to feel normal again once I got off this ride. While the rest of the rides on this list are here because they impressed me in a positive way, this ride is here because it taught me that coasters can be impressively painful. Coming in at number 4 is Banshee at Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. Banshee is an interesting one because it rides differently depending on the train for me. This 2014 B&M inverted roller coaster has a height of 167 feet, a drop of 150 feet, and 7 inversions, by far the most inversions on this list so far. The first time I rode Banshee, I didn't care for it. The ride does have a slight rattle. It's not painful by any means, but it does make the ride a slight bit uncomfortable, especially since the layout focuses on strong positive Gs. I also found the forces to be too overwhelming, and I grayed out a considerable amount that first time. Upon a re-ride, I enjoyed this ride way more. I didn't feel the rattle, and I found the forces to be more enjoyable, but I think I've gotten more used to the forces inverts provide since my first ride. This ride's layout is long and full of big sweeping inversions that will absolutely cause the blood to pull away from your head again and again. You may even feel some tingling in your feet. While Banshee has its graceful moments, like the 0G roll for instance, it easily causes me to gray out more than most coasters on this list. The forces are strong, sustained, and leave me feeling disoriented by the end. So far, I think it's the most consistently forceful ride we've discussed. This next one hurts to talk about, but at number 3 I have ArieForce One at Fun Spot America in Atlanta. Fun Spot America just closed for good on August 2nd, so it's possible I may never get to ride this ride again. ArieForce One is a 2023 RMC creation with a height of 154 feet, a drop of 146 feet, and 4 inversions. As of right now, this is my favorite roller coaster I've ever been on. I immediately knew I'd found a new favorite the second I tried it. The rapid fire elements are so satisfying and intense that it almost feels like RMC decided to build this ride to torture people. And I don't mean that it's rough. Far from that, it just feels like the designers wanted this ride to please the neediest enthusiast possible. I couldn't help but laugh my entire way through the track every time I rode it, because it's just hilarious how relentless it is. I will say, Arie doesn't make me gray out at all. It's not intense in that way. It just has absolutely insane airtime and pacing. Both 0G rolls are hilariously fast and disorienting, while the wave turn and double up hit you with such sustained airtime that you feel like you can high-five people on the ground. There's a series of powerful bunny hills at the end of the ride that try to throw you so violently it's almost overkill, but I can't help but love it. ArieForce One is definitely intense in a totally different way than Banshee, but I'm placing it above the former because the layout is more unpredictable and relentless overall. Whatever the future holds for this ride, it will forever be the most surprising experience I ever had. Now we've reached the top 2, and I'll admit these rides are here for totally different reasons. In second place is the Voyage at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. We already touched on the Legend, which is housed at the same park, but if you thought that ride was long, try its 6,442-foot younger brother. That's over 2,000 more feet of track. The Voyage debuted in 2006 and was manufactured by the Gravity Group. It has a height of 159 feet, a drop of 154 feet, and a top speed of 67 miles per hour. This coaster has long been a fan favorite nationwide, and many travel far and wide just to get a ride on it. Luckily for them, there are 3 other great rides in this park as well, but admittedly, they all live in the shadow of the Voyage. The layout on this thing feels so long that it's almost impossible for me to memorize it. With most other rides, I can memorize the layout after 3 or 4 rides, even if it's on the longer side. This one, however, has so many crazy twists and turns that I'm still surprised every time I get on it. Some of the turns are banked so steeply to one side that you feel like the train is going to derail. The beginning of the ride is nothing to scoff at either. It almost feels like a B&M Hyper with its huge, graceful airtime hills full of floater airtime. There's a triple down and a tunnel that kicks off the second half, followed by another endless series of of twists, turns, and strong ejector airtime moments. The ride isn't perfectly smooth. In fact, I've had some very aggressive and borderline painful rides on it, but luckily, most rides are pain-free. It really just depends on the day and how recently it's been retracked. Overall, Holiday World has done a great job maintaining it, especially given the fact that it's over 6,000 feet in length and puts a lot of stress on its track. While ArieForce One has more variety in its layout and overall feels more ridiculous, the Voyage lasts considerably longer and feels much meaner. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for. Taking the gold medal is Batman the Ride at Six Flags Over Georgia. Batman the Ride is a B&M inverted roller coaster that can be found at many Six Flags parks. Trust me when I say that this ride is running in such a way that I almost question if it's safe to ride. Don't take that too seriously, of course it's safe, but I just wanted to emphasize my point. This ride is a clone, so it's not the first of its kind. The first Batman the Ride opened in 1992 at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois, a park that I've already mentioned on this list. I've ridden that one countless times, and not once have I even grayed out. I've definitely felt some good forces on it, and the ride has a ton of whip, but I have never experienced a full blackout, which is what happened to me when I rode the Over Georgia iteration recently. This clone debuted in 1997, has a height of 105 feet, a drop of 84.5 feet, and 5 inversions. I had heard this clone was especially intense for quite some time before I rode it, but I naively expected it to be a slight step up from the original. I was very wrong. As soon as the train hit the bottom of the first drop, my entire body felt like it was being compressed and distorted. My hearing started to go out, and I actually had to close my eyes because I knew I was close to passing out. The difference in the way this clone feels compared to the original cannot be overstated. It is not the same experience at all. I lost consciousness for a few seconds and don't remember going through the 0G roll or the second vertical loop at all. I came to during the slow turnaround section. The second half of the ride was blazing as well, though fortunately I handled that just fine. I'm willing to admit it was a very hot day and I may have been a little dehydrated, but still, this ride felt so much faster than I expected. I'm not really sure why it runs the way it does compared to the original. It's also impossibly smooth, to the point that I almost couldn't even tell the train was on a track at all. I think this almost added to the intensity. This was the first time I felt genuine fear on a ride in years, so it's my number one for sure. And that wraps up my top 10 most intense coasters list. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, give me a like and subscribe as it helps my channel grow. With all that being said, thanks for watching.